Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about how do we use simultaneous equation to determine the points of intersection. So remember in the last video, I told you there are two methods, the simultaneous equation method and the formula method. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the simultaneous equation method. The next video, I'm going to talk about the formula method. Is that okay? So please, it's very important that you review previous video, especially simultaneous equation, okay? And try as much as possible to look at it and be sure that you understood it very well. And also, if you've not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for, click on the subscription button and also the notification bell. So when I post new videos, you'll be the first person to know. All right. So usually two straight lines will always cross at one point. So that means if we have one straight line, let's call this AB. And that straight line, let's call this what? CD. They'll always cross at one point. So this point here, let's call it the point of intersection I. Okay? Now, this I is going to have, okay, this I is going to have its X values and it's going to also have its what? Y values. Okay? So now, how do we now determine or derive these values? We're going to use the simultaneous equation method to do that. Now, there are 5 rules for this, how to do it, or 5 steps. Okay, 5 rules or 5 steps. Number 1, using suitable method, you have to first find the equation of both lines and write down the equation of each line in the slope-intercept form. Okay, then when you've done that, sometimes they might give it to you in a standard form, but you might need to rearrange it back to the slope-intercept form. Okay, so I'm going to write it down. Okay, using suitable method. Okay, find the equation of both lines. Okay, and write down the equation of each line in the slope-intercept form. Okay, of y is equal to mx plus c. So basically, you have to write down each of them in the form of y equal to mx plus c. Now, in some cases, okay, you might need to rearrange, okay? You might need to rearrange in some cases. So what I'm basically saying is that you have it in standard form, then you have to then convert it to the slope-intercept form. So so at the end of the day, when you found the equation, you're going to get y1 to be equal to m1 x1 plus c1, and you also have then get the second line to be y2 to be m2 x2 plus what? c2. Then number 2, when you're done with it, you then have to then equate both equations together. Okay, so that means we have y1 is equal to what? y2. So equate both of them together. So that means you have the m1 x1 plus c1 will be equal to the m2 x2 plus c2. So if y1 is equal to y2, so this will have to be equal to that. So m1 x1 plus c1 is equal to m2 x2 plus c2. Then when you're done equating then you have to then solve for x using the relevant algebraic technique. So remember, I've talked about basic algebra. So it's very important that you review the basic algebra concept. So using the relevant algebraic technique or methods, you will now solve to give you the value for x. Okay? So you now solve to give you the value for x. So you solve for x, okay? You solve for x using the relevant algebraic technique. Okay? So when you solve for x, you end up finding the value for x. So that x value that you solve or you get is what is the what? The xi. Is that all right? So the value you get here is the xi. So remember I told you at the point of intersection, the x is called the xi, the coordinate of the intersecting point. The I is what? The xi. So that means what you solve, the value you get at step 3 for x is the xi. Number 4, now that the xi value you now get, okay, the xi value, what you now have to do is that you then have to then substitute it into any of the original equation from step 1 to get the value for the y, and that y is going to be the yi. Is that okay? So the xi value derived from step 3 is then substituted in any of the equations from step 1. Okay? So you can either use either the y1 equal to m1 x1 plus c1, or you can use the y2 is equal to m2 x2 plus c2. So any of that. But when you solve, after it will give you what? To give you y, all right, to find for y. Now this y is the same thing as the yi. Is that right? So the same thing as the yi. So that means you get x, you solve for x first from step 3. The answer you get from x, you now go to the original equation to substitute. Okay, then when you're done with that, number 5, you then have to then rewrite the coordinates in the form of xi, yi. Is that right? So you then rewrite the coordinates in the form of, you write it as xi, yi. Okay? Now, when you write it in that form, then you can also check and see if these variables will satisfy the equation. Then, if you want to, you can check to see if the variables satisfy the equation. You can check by substituting, okay? So the way to check is that you have to substitute. So you check by substituting. Okay? So you check by substituting to see if the variables will satisfy the equation. Now, this step is not really necessary, okay? The checking is not really necessary. It's just if you have extra time, you want to be sure, then you can now check, okay? So in the first 5 things, you substitute using method, you're gonna write the equation of both lines. After writing them, you equate both of them together. After equating, you solve for x. You now substitute x into original equation to get y. You now write down the coordinates in a what? In a proper what? Form. So I'm going to pick an example now so that we can solve. So let's try with this example, okay? Let's solve this example. Let's just apply the concept we just said. So we have this, we'll have a straight line, C, okay? Having 16x plus 4y is equal to 8, intersect with another. Okay, so this intersect with another line S, having 4x minus 2y minus 10 is equal to 0. Okay? We're now told to find the points of what? Intersection. Find the points of intersection. Okay? So we're told to then find the points of intersection. So let's go back to the first one. The first step says using suitable method, find the equation of both lines and write the equation down in the slope-intercept form. All right, so we have to write it in the form of y is equal to mx plus c. So let's go, step 1. All right, I'm going to start with t. So we have t to be 16x plus 4y is equal to 8. I will take 16 to x to the other side. It's going to be 4y is going to be equal to minus 16x plus 8. Okay? Then I'll divide both sides by 4 to make y on its own, and I'll have y will be equal to minus 4x plus 2. So this is the equation for line T. So we can refer to this as the y1 if you want to. Now the next one is for S. The equation for x, we have 4x minus 2y minus 10 is equal to 0. Okay? Then I take all this to the other side to make y to be on its own. So we have minus 2y is equal to minus 4x plus 10. Because you take 4x to that side, become minus 4x. You take minus 10 to the other side, it's going to become plus 10. You then divide both sides by what? Minus 2. And this is going to give us y will be equal to minus 4 divided by minus 2 will give us 2x. Plus 10 divided by minus 2 will give us minus 5. And that will be the equation for line S. Are you seeing it? So we've written both line T to be, okay, minus 4x. Okay, so let's put it this way to make it make sense. So line T, which is the y1, is equal to minus 4x plus 2. So the y1 means the first line. S, which is the y2, the second line, is what? 2x minus 5. And that is what? The two lines we are having here. Now, what does step 2 say? Step 2 now said, equate both equations, that is y1 is equal to y2. So we're going to do that now. So step 2, so we know at point of intersection. So at point of intersection, we know y1 is equal to what? y2. So that means we can now say minus 4x plus 2 must be equal to 2x plus 5. So we're going to say minus 4x plus 2 will be equal to what? 2x minus 5. Okay? So we're done with that. So step 3 now said we should solve for x using the relevant algebraic techniques or method to give us our xi. So let's go and solve for x now. Step 3. Okay, so we had minus 4x plus 2 was equal to 2x minus 5. I take 2 to the other side, so I have minus 4x minus 2x is equal to, I take 2 to this other side, minus 5 minus 2. Minus 4 minus 2 will give you minus 6x, will be equal to minus 7. To find x, we divide both sides by what? minus 6. So therefore, the x is going to be equal to 7 over what? 7 over 6. So this is the xi, okay? Then we'll go to the next part, which was for step 4. So step 4 now, what does step 4 says? Step 4 said then the xi values derived from step 3 is then substituted in any of the equations from step 1, either the y1 or the y2 equation to find y, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this in another slide so that I can solve with both of them. So the reason I want to solve with both of them so that you don't need to worry, to show you that you will still get the same answer regardless. Okay, so let's move on then. So we're having this, x is equal to 7 over 6. Okay, x is equal to 7 over 6. So what is the y1? Was minus 4x plus 2. So remember, we're meant to substitute this to any of the equations to get y. So we have y is equal to minus 4x plus 2. And also, you can also y was equal to 2x minus 5. So I want to just to prove to you is that regardless of the one you choose, you will get the same thing. So minus 4 into bracket 7 over 6 plus 2. And when you do this, when you press your calculator, you get minus 8 over what? 3. The same thing, when you put this 2 into bracket 7 over 6 minus 5, you will get as well minus 8 over what? 3. Are you seeing it? So regardless of the method you choose, you will still get the same thing. I remember I told you the y here is the same thing as your yi, which is equal to what? Minus 8 over 3. All right, step 5. After doing that, what's the next step? The next step is to what? Write the coordinates in the form of xi, yi. So we're going to write it now. So our xi, we'll write it in the form of xi, yi. All right? So what was our xi? Our xi was 7 over 6. And what was our yi? Minus 8 over 3. And that will be the answer for that. Okay? So the first thing, like we said, just follow the steps. Write down the two equations, equate both of them together, solve for x, substitute to solve for y, and write down the what? The coordinates for that. Okay? All right, let's pick another example. Okay? Let's just pick another example I have here. We have a straight line. Straight line A, which is y is equal to 3x plus 1, intersects with another line B, which was y is equal to 2x plus 10. Okay? Find the point of intersection. Okay? So we have the first one, step 1. We know our A. Remember, we're told that we need to write down each of the equations, right? In the form of y equals mx plus c. So if you look at this, the question already given that to us already. So our y1 is equal to 3x plus 1. And the b, which is the y2, the second line, is equal to 2x plus 10. So step 2, we're now told in step 2 that we have to equate both equations together so that this y1 is equal to what? Y2. So that means the equation of y1 is equal to the equation of what? Y2. So you do the same thing. So we know at point of intersection, at point of intersection. Y1 is equal to what? Y2. So therefore, 3x plus 1 will be equal to 2x plus 10. Okay? Then, when we're done with that, we go to step 3. So for step 3, what happens in step 3? You then have to then solve for x using any relevant algebraic what? Technique. So we then have to what? Solve for x now. So let's solve for x. So we have it 3x plus 1 is equal to 2x plus 10. I take 2x to the other side and take 1 to the other side. So it's going to give me 3x minus 2x is equal to 10 minus 1. And x will be equal to what? 9. And this is the same thing as the xi that is equal to what? 9. Okay? So we've gotten the xi that will be equal to 9. So we're going to find the y now. So we're going to go to step 4. So step 4 now said that the xi value derived from step 3 is then substituted into any of the equation from step 1, either the first one, the first line, or the second line to find for y. So, as usual, I'm going to use both of them just to prove to you that any of them will give you the same thing. In the exam or in the test or when solving questions, you don't need to solve in both of them, but I'm just doing this to just make it easy, all right? Just to give you a rest of mind that you have to choose any one and give it the same answer. So the first line we have was y is equal to 3x plus 1 and 2x plus 10. So we have y is equal to 3x plus 1, and we also have y is equal to what? 2x plus 10. So we're going to substitute x. We got our x to be 9. So that will give us 3 into bracket 9 plus 1. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 plus 1 is what? 28. So the answer we have here is y is equal to 28. If you use this as well, to be 2 into bracket 9 plus 10. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 10 is what? 28. So as you can see, regardless of the method you use or which of the equation you use, you will get the same thing. So therefore, we can now say our yi is equal to what? 28. Then step 5, we're now told that after we're done with that, we should now rewrite it in the right format. So you have to write the coordinates in the form of xi, yi. So we're going to write it now. So we found our xi and our yi, and that will give us our xi. What's our xi? Is 9. And our yi is what? 28. And that will be the answer for that. Okay, so therefore the points of intersection for these two lines is going to be 9, what? 28. All right, so that will be that for that. All right, so I'm going to move straight to the next concept, which is using the formula method. So generally for points of intersection, all right, they meet at a point, which is the coordinate there. And I gave you the 5 methods. You write down the 2 equations. You equate both of them together. You solve for x. You then substitute to solve for y. And you write down the pairs together. And when you're done doing that, then you can solve that. But there's also another method, which is the formula method. Technically, it's easier, but it takes a lot of, you have to just memorize the formula, all right? So in the simultaneous equation method, it's very easy. Just follow the steps, you get the answer. But if you prefer the formula method, I'm going to show you in the next video. And also, like I always say, if you've not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for, please do so that when I upload a new video, you'll be the first to know. All right, so I'll see you in the next video where I'll talk about the formula method.